Are you good? Okay. I'm also good. By the way, I stole an idea from you. Although I didn't capitalize on it, but your Good Day Internet thing is popular. People like it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So on TMS, we realized that we were recording a good 15 minutes of just banter pre-show, post-show that people in the live stream always really like and enjoy, but no one ever else gets to hear it because I edited it out. It stays in the VOD, but, unless you're listening to it some other way. So for our patrons at any level, we now give them this 15 minutes of free just stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And I got the idea from you, so thank you for that.
You know what's funny about that? I took the concept of Good Day Internet from the morning stream. I was like, well, if the morning stream is the morning show, then Good Day Internet is your afternoon show.
Right. I remember you even saying that at the time. And so I feel like we've made a positive exchange. Of ideas
and round it goes.
Iteration, and it's all worked out for the best. Okay, here we go, everybody. My soundboard is slowly opening. Hold on. Why is that happening?
Slowly I turn.
It's very weird.
Inch by inch, yard by yard.
Actually, here it is. Now it's working. Yep, there it is. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1.
I have
Current Geek.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Current Geek. That's right, Current Geek. It's the film festival episode. Yeah, we haven't seen you in a while, but that's what we're doing today, and it's a special monthly look at the greatest movies of all time from a geeky perspective. I'm Scott Johnson. He's Tom Merritt. This week we're talking about Seven Samurai.
This is our first foreign language film, non-English film.
Oh, I didn't realize that. That's true.
Right? I think so.
I think there's a couple of firsts here. It's our first foreign language film, I guess, and it's our longest film, according to the cursory check I did on other long films we've done, like Godfather 1 and 2.
Okay, yeah.
What else did we do?
It's the first one with an intermission, I think.
I think that's true also, yep. None of those others did. Although I want to say something in Godfather was intermission-y, but I don't remember why.
Oh, you're right. The Godfather did have an intermission.
Did it? Okay.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Very vague memory of that. But I know that Schindler's List wasn't this long in terms of running time. So, and then in the other first is the most obvious first for me, and that is this is the first time I've ever seen The Seven Samurai, despite the fact that it's always referenced. People say you got to see it. Kurosawa is the master. You've missed out on a whole career of amazing filmmaking. Just never got around to it. So now I have, and I feel pretty good about it. I mean, this isn't your first viewing, I assume. Right.
It is only my second viewing. My first viewing occurred in college. Every once in a while, you may have long-time listeners of the Current Geek Film Fest know that I took a course in college where I was able to watch movies as part of the course. It was an English course about movies, and this was one of the movies we watched. I think this was the only non-English film. No, take it back. I think we had an Italian film too.
Oh, yeah, and those classes.
Also, Seven Samurai, along with Akira we should give the details. Written, directed by Akira Kurosawa. Also written by Shinobu Hashimoto and Hideo Oguni. And it was made by Toho. You may know them from Godzilla. They also produced a lot of other kinds of movies back in the day, and still do. It is considered a classic, one of the greatest of all time, because it kicked off the genre of getting the team together. Folks, if you liked Avengers, you have Seven Samurai to thank in part, because Akira Kurosawa, not with is Seven Samurai the one? I can't remember now if this is the first one, but he made very traditional Japanese films. They were very good Japanese films, but they were traditional Japanese films about people working within society. And Seven Samurai is a departure from that. And every movie after Samurai is a departure for that, where he talks about people breaking their roles.
Right.
And so he was a very much a groundbreaking film director. And so if you like Action movies like The Magnificent Seven, which is a direct,
Mhm.
almost remake, except in the Old West, of Seven Samurai. If you like, I don't know, the Star Wars, Seven Samurai, and Akira Kurosawa's other film, Hidden Fortress, George Lucas has cited both of those as huge influences on the original Star Wars. Then you have Akira Kurosawa to thank for a
I think
lot of
that's
that.
accurate, and also I had never given him the proper credit and hadn't really thought about who was first at making the let's get the team together movies. That's a great way of describing the genre. And it's one of my favorite subgenres without me even knowing it. I just accept that if you're going to do a heist movie, you're going to have characters go and track down the best people for the job, and they're going to be quirky and they're going to be different and they're going to be hard to get along with, but they're going to be perfect for the job in the end. And that covers everything from things like Ocean's 11 and, like you mentioned, Star Wars, and something like TV shows like Firefly, and that's just a tiny taste of probably the thousands of movies that benefit from this core conceit and concept. So if there's something like that from before, I would love to know what it is, because as I was watching this, I felt like I was seeing history finally
Yeah.
being made before my eyes, and that was great because it informs a lot of what I like about heist movies and action movies and team ups of any sort. And that's what you've got. Like, what's the Sylvester Stallone thing where he brings all the old action 80s people together? I forgot
Yeah,
the name of
right.
those.
It's like the Seven Samurai of action film stars.
Totally, they totally are. And I would argue that, like, the Fast and the Furious films are basically this concept. You're just kind of pulling together all these odd
there's
people.
a certain point. These movies are drawing from multiple influences. Obviously,
Sure.
there's no cars in Seven Samurai.
Right.
It's set in, I think, the 1600s. So yeah, but Magnificent Seven directly comes from Seven Samurai, and then other films start to riff off of Magnificent Seven as well as Seven Samurai. There are other movies from Akira Kurosawa that were directly turned into movies. I can't remember exactly which one now suddenly, but Fistful of Dollars
Oh,
was
no.
essentially a remake, of Yojimbo,
Mm,
which is a later movie, a 1960 movie
right.
from Kurosawa. I don't think I mentioned that 1954 is when Seven Samurai came out.
Oh yeah,
in
April
Japan.
of 54. That's correct. Which seems well. Okay, I'm going to make a comment about the visuals of this movie that, and I watched this digitally, so I can't even speak to something like a Blu-ray or whatever. But even in the format I watched it in, which was a window on my desktop, I'm blown away by the visuals in this. Knowing that it was 54, knowing what kind of location he's in, knowing what kind of camera tech was the standard in 54, he is capturing some amazing things. And I don't just mean landscapes or quick action or something. I mean, like, something about the black and white juxtaposition of that fire burning, the old man's hut is burning and reflecting in the water and still remaining black and white, and the like specular highlights that are coming off of that water. It's amazing. Like, it really is something to behold even now. Like, visually now, I was just like, wow, this is really freaking cool. And it made everything feel ahead of its time. If anything felt dated, it was actor delivery, maybe just a little over the top,
Maybe.
kind of across the
Yeah.
board. But
It took place in 1586, so I was even too recent with the 1600s. So
Yeah.
that helps you forgive a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
And I know what you're talking about, particularly Toshiro Mifune's Kikuchiyo, the kind of drunken samurai that
Yeah.
follows them and joins them despite them not really wanting him at first. He's way over the top. But Mifune was supposed to play one of the other samurai. It was originally going to be called Six Samurai, and Kurosawa added Kikuchiyo because he thought that they needed some disruptive influence. They needed something to spice things up. He's like, this is a little boring if all the six samurai are all honorable.
Yeah.
So let's throw something random into the mix. We need some chaotic neutral, and that's Kikuchiyo. And so Toshiro Mifune, which he's in Hidden Fortress as well. He's in a lot of Kurosawa movies, was moved. I can't remember which. I think he might have played. I don't want to say. He played one of the other samurai. He moves to Kikuchiyo, and Kurosawa tells him, like, ham it up, just ad lib, go nuts, improvise. knock yourself out. So yeah, I can see where you would maybe look at that and think, well, that's too much ham. We don't we would not put that much ham in.
Yeah, it was a
in
lot of ham,
2019,
but also you have to acknowledge, and I'm so glad you brought him up. You have to acknowledge that really important decision. It may have seemed like a small thing at the time to add this seventh voice, the one that's a little disruptive, the one that seems to go against the grain, is just going to give them more headaches than success. But that's the key to these movies. It turns out that subgenre. And it doesn't matter what you pick. Pick any of the ones I gave earlier or anything I've forgotten. There's a million of these kinds of movies. But getting the team back together or building a team from scratch, that concept in a movie needs that one guy or that one lady who is just kind of out there and makes things hard. You know, a good example of that. I love Sneakers, for example. Sneakers, people think of it as a tech heist movie, and it is. And it's fantastic. But it's this same concept. It's get the team together. And you know that when you get Dan Aykroyd's character, who plays Mother, that's his key code name, that you're going to get in trouble because he's a conspiracy theorist and all he wants to do is conspiracy stuff all the time. But he's a genius and they need him for his hacking. So they're willing to forego, okay, we'll deal with his crackpot ideas, but because we need his skill. It's the same kind of idea. And it's crucial. Like, this would have kind of not sucked, but it wouldn't have been near the movie without that drunk guy. And I would say the same thing about Magnificent Seven.
Somber, right? It's pretty somber in places anyway, but it would have been a very heavy, much heavier movie.
Right. You need swarthy Han Solo in Star Wars. You just need him.
Swarthy?
Well, that's probably the wrong word. You need swaggery kind of.
Swagger. Okay.
Yeah, swarthy's not right.
Those mean different things.
I don't want to use swarthy.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You need that guy. He's rebellious and he's mad and he's going against the grain and he's hard to deal with and he's pissing everybody off. Like, that guy makes the combo work, and there's redemption in the end. Same with Seven Samurai. That character finds not just redemption, he's the reason they make it. Like, at the end, he's key in the whole thing happening or working out.
Wait, would you say that he came out of nowhere and shot down Darth Vader so that we could blow up the Death Star?
Yeah, let's blow this thing up and go home, kid. You know,
Yeah.
Woohoo! Basically, except he paid the ultimate price. This is also a lot more. It's interesting. I don't mean to jump to the movie or jump to the end so fast, but
No, that's fine.
they lose 4 of the samurai.
Yeah, only 3 survive. The
Right.
2 who always that's kind of foreshadowed, because earlier they say, "How do we stay alive?" I don't know. This may be our last one. And of course, at the end they're like, "Well, we made it through again," and it's them and the guy with the love interest, right? That's the only ones left.
There's the only 2, and so the Yul Brynner like one, who's also bald.
Kanbei, the leader.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
Love that guy.
Takashi Shimura. He's a prototype too. Like, this, I don't know. There may have been lots of other period movies made with that kind of character, but for me, I look at Kanbei and I'm like, oh yeah, no, that character has been reflected in so many television shows, movies. It's always the master. I mean, Karate Kid.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's
Miyagi. It's basically Mr. Miyagi.
Is essentially Kanbei, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, he's him without. Well, I know. I guess he did have the fighting skills, but yeah, it's the quiet, controlled, reluctant though hero that they need. He's reluctant to do it at first, especially in Magnificent Seven and its iterations. But they get him in there because he just cannot ignore the atrocity. He has to react. It's in his blood to do the right thing. And everyone else just kind of has to get in line, no matter how flawed they may be. And when they all...
That was one thing I didn't realize until I read a Roger Ebert thing about this. That was very, not controversial, but very surprising in a Japanese film. Because you are showing samurai going against the rules of the day. The samurai are not supposed to take orders from farmers. That's not the way the society worked in the 1500s, right?
Sure.
It's medieval times. So them doing that was saying, hey, let's disrupt the social order for the greater good, because it's the right thing to do.
Right.
And you have that in miniature with the love story where Shino is basically shamed because she's a farmer's daughter. She could never be with a samurai.
Right.
But they say like, oh, but young people in love. To be honest, that probably would not have washed. Nobody would have said that in the 1500s. But Kurosawa was saying that because he was trying to make a commentary that we can't just always follow the social norms. Sometimes the right thing to do is disrupt.
Yeah, and that's what this movie does that in a few different ways. When they're all sort of mourning the four that passed at the end, unlike the Western that riffed on it, they definitely spend more time going, yeah, this is great for the villagers who we saved, but look who we lost. They lost 4 of our dudes.
Yeah.
That was a lot more somber than I expected.
Also, why didn't the bandits just give up and go raid another village that hadn't hired 7 samurai?
I know, they just kept coming back. It was crazy.
Because like a big part of the strategy was don't let them know we're here, right? Because we want to surprise them that there are 7 of us here. But after the first attack, they know you're there. Wouldn't they just be like, "Ah, crap! All right, let's get out. Let's get out of here." I guess that goes back to my social norms thing. Is the bandits are like, "No, we are bandits. This is what we do. We will not give up until we have properly pillaged this farm town."
Right, but they also understand that or at least the way this subgenre and structure would develop over time, that it needed to feel like a microcosm, a thing happening in a vacuum. So it's like it's the only village left, and it's like these are the only bandits, and it's like this is the only conflict. Like movies where cops seem to be nowhere, like Bad City stuff is happening. Like, where are the freaking police? Like, this would be over in 5 seconds, but it doesn't serve the film very well to have the police come and solve it right away. And instead, you're kind of made to make your brain go, okay, well, this is such this conflict is almost like a planet with the conflict on one little piece of the planet. The rest of the planet, nothing's happening. And that's how it felt to me. And I like that. That's how I feel about, I don't know. I think that's why I like apocalyptic fiction and movies. It feels like it's happening without anything else happening. No one else is doing anything. There are no other villages, and there are nowhere else to plunder. It's just they have to do it here. Plus, I just like the idea that they're stubborn about it. They're going to keep going back and poking at it. And even if they know it's the best thing, the best villains are usually overtaken by their egos, and they still go smash against the rocks, and it ends up
we'll teach you a lesson. You can't screw with us.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. Like, I now understand, and it's been all these years, I just never saw a Kurosawa film, and it always bugged me that I didn't get around to it. So thank goodness for the Current Geek Film Fest, because I finally did it. And now when I hear people like Tarantino and Rodriguez and other modern directors say, I wouldn't even be in this world of directing films had it not been for the likes of Kurosawa. And I never understood that, because I understood when they would say, oh, Peckinpah, or name off all these directors from the 60s and 70s that affected them growing up. I totally get that. In the same way that Spielberg inspired JJ and things like that. I totally get it.
Yeah, right.
But for some reason I was like, oh, Kurosawa is like so out of left field. Like why this Japanese language thing from the 50s would even come into the sphere. And I get it now. I totally get it. Like, this stuff was way ahead of its time and must have been hugely influential if you could get your hands on it. Because in 1954, who's watching this? I don't think this was in mainstream American theaters, was it? I don't think so.
It's a good question of when it came to America. But I will point out that there are more people on the planet in 1954 than Americans. So you could still have a lot of people watching the movie just in another country, Scott.
Yeah, that's true, I guess. Well, I know a lot of people see it. My point is, like, entering the popular culture of Hollywood in particular.
Like, how does it? But for that aspect of this, like, how does it get into the U.S. Hollywood culture? That's totally fair. I'll stop making fun of you. The movies that we've watched that were made in Hollywood sometimes didn't work their way into the culture, like Casablanca. We talked about how it really wasn't considered much of a success at the box office, and it didn't catch on until it started getting played on television later, really, and in some reruns in movie theaters and stuff. So I imagine that this is the same thing, where this makes 268 million yen in Japan when it comes out. That's about $2.3 million. I don't know what that is in modern dollars, but it makes its budget back. It was a hugely expensive movie to make by Japanese standards. They spent 125 million yen on it, but they doubled that. And so it's probably like people started hearing about this super successful film in Japan and were like, get a copy of that sent over. Let's take a look at that. And then word starts going around. Yeah. I mean, I suppose that it happened just like it happens with any other movie, like a little bit of word of mouth of something that otherwise maybe didn't have the splash out of the gate that you would have.
Yeah.
had.
You see the same sort of thing with formats, like without VHS, it's arguable that the anime explosion of the late 80s and all the way through the 90s up till now wouldn't have happened in the way it happened without a common format that was sort of used everywhere. So that stuff got spread around and sold overseas and everything else. Same thing happened to me in the very late 80s, early 90s. I discovered John Woo that way and other Hong Kong action films. I didn't know that stuff existed, and it was amazing. And that stuff influenced American film to this day because it was so freaking good. The stuff coming out of Hong Kong was amazing, but it felt like a discovery, you know?
It must have been released in the United States in 1957 because it was nominated for Best Art Direction and Set Direction in the black and white category and Best Costume Design in the black and white category in 1957. Must have been, yeah.
I guess
so, and it would have to have been released in U.S. theaters, I think.
And they probably, I don't know how this works overseas or even how it works for us if we're trying to enter into something overseas. But if something's really good, it seems like people would clamor to get it under consideration, right?
Well, yeah, I think now we're kind of spoiled with the idea of like, well, now you can see anything. Netflix gets its rights, or you figure out how to rent it. How did people possibly see these things? And overseas films did tour in art houses, even in the 50s, and even in major houses sometimes. So maybe we're selling it short by suggesting that it wouldn't have made its way over here when it obviously did. It was nominated for 3 BAFTA awards in 1956, and in fact, at BAFTA, the British Film Awards, it got nomination for Best Film. So that's pretty huge, and that obviously means it was playing in British theaters in 1956.
Yeah, I probably got around more than I think, but I do love that he has just such a legend around him now as a director, and I love that he's considered one of the greatest of all time, and then he's not just jammed into the usual suspects that we all think of from that era. Freaking what's his name? Ford, not Henry Ford, the other Ford, John Ford. Yeah.
Henry Ford wasn't as good as movies.
No, it turns out no. Yeah. He was. He just wanted cars in his movies, and everyone's like, "Come on,
any movie you want, as long as it's black." No, black and white? Nope. Just a black screen.
Black screen, never does anything, breaks down a lot.
His movies never took off that way. But the cars, Model Ts did great.
That's true. Kurosawa actually lived a great long time. He lived to 1998 and died that year at the ripe old age of 88. Did he ever... I was going
to say, did it bother you that all of these people are also dead?
It didn't bother me so much as...
I mean, I don't know. Maybe some of the kids are still alive.
Yeah, some of the kids could be alive, sure. I mean, 50, whatever, they were, they would all be like in their 60s and 70s now or something. So I could totally see them still being alive. But there is one guy, and I sent you the video of this, and I passed it around on Twitter. If you didn't see it, everybody can go look on the CurrentGeek Twitter feed, and it retweeted it. But there's this guy in one of the battle scenes who's running away from one of the oncoming horses. Or actually, he's just got his back turned to it. And that horse hits that dude. And that dude takes a freaking flying fall from that horse hitting him.
I guess it's possible that that's a stunt fall, but it sure doesn't look like it.
I don't think
looks
they
like
cared.
He wasn't looking, and the butt of the horse knocks him over. He doesn't get kicked or anything, but it looks like a real fall to me.
I would be surprised if it wasn't. And that's a different time where nobody worried about that stuff as much. I mean, you still worried about it. You want people to die on your set or be maimed or whatever, but that stuff would happen. They didn't have the same rules. We didn't have the same kind of, organizations and what's the word I'm looking for? When you get together and you create a group of you who pays dues, and they're called
a union.
Things weren't unionized. Animal cruelty stuff hadn't really taken off in that way, so it seems like there's probably a ton of examples from then. But this thing looked like it was filmed out in the sticks and not in some Hollywood backlot, and it just
part of it is on a stage set.
Sure.
It took a year to complete, and one of the reasons it was so expensive is that he wanted to to shoot in situ on location. In fact, the film's final battle scene was supposed to be shot at the end of summer, but scheduling changes and delays made them shoot in February. And Mifune said it was the coldest he'd ever been in his life when they were shooting that battle scene.
Oh, wow. Well, that's awesome. I also did
148 shooting days spread out over a year.
Really?
Yeah, the Wikipedia article says that Toho Studios closed down production twice.
Wow.
And each time, Kurosawa just went fishing, reasoning that the studio had invested so much in the production that it would change its mind and let him complete the picture, and he was right.
Wow. Well, I didn't realize that he kept working all the way up through. There were new movies in the 80s. I didn't know that. Did you know that? You can go see a 1980s era Kurosawa film.
Yeah, it's called Seven Synthesizers.
7 big-haired teenage girls.
He made a lot of movies.
Yeah.
He made a lot of movies before Seven Samurai, before the ones that he is best known for. And he just kept making movies. It's what he did.
Yeah, I mean, people tell me that if you're going to see one of his movies, this is the one to see. So I'm glad that we did. I'm sure there are others.
This is universally considered. It's 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's universally considered to be his best work. Hidden Fortress is the other one that I have watched, and Rashomon is often, especially if someone wants to appear a little snootier than thou, they'll often try to argue that Rashomon is really his best work. But those are the three I usually hear bandied about. And of course, Yojimbo, as I mentioned, there's so many others. You can just keep going because he has a breadth of work and a breadth of very high quality work.
So how many of his movies have you seen outside of this one?
I've seen 3.
Oh, that's pretty good.
3 best.
Yeah, see, and I've seen
Rashomon, Hidden Fortress, and Seven Samurai.
I've seen precisely 1, and this is it. And now I kind of want to know.
You should watch
more.
Hidden Fortress because that is the origin of R2-D2 and C-3PO.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I mean, and you will see it. You will see it, and you'll be like, "Oh gosh, yeah." It's almost embarrassing how much of their dynamic in A New Hope, particularly, is taken. They're 2 thieves, so they're actually, they're a little more morally ambiguous than at least C-3PO is. But they are kind of wandering through this story of a princess hiding and trying to escape from her captors. It's it sound familiar to you?
Yeah, they call them 2 bedraggled peasants. I like that term.
One of them's really tall, one of them's really short. At one point they get mad and they separate, and then they get brought back together.
Did Lucas ever cop to that inspiration?
Oh yeah, no, he freely admits that Hidden Fortress was a huge influence. Yeah,
that's awesome. I just love that. I love finding out that the things I idolized as a kid had these. I mean, that's what filmmaking is, right? Everyone's iterating on each other. But
I like Sidian. Aren't you a little short for a bedraggled peasant?
Nice one, Sidian. Nice job. I will say this though, having seen this last after seeing the 1961, I believe was the year, Magnificent Seven, dozens of times.
1960, I think. Yeah.
60 was it? I saw it lots of times. Then I saw the modern iteration TV show thing they had in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s, and I loved that show. It was great. I was really into that as well. And I even really quite liked the newer one with Denzel Washington and Chris Pratt and all that. Came out 2 years ago. I like that movie a lot. Antoine Fuqua directed it. I think it's great. I mean, it's not doing anything special. It's kind of just remaking the story again. But because I've seen that so many times and never really thought about the source material, I was telling you on text earlier, I approached this movie thinking, well, I'm going to get to see the roots of all of this. Instead of what I saw was what felt like a riff on the other stuff I already seen. Like I just got a little cognitive dissonance of, well, I saw this other stuff first, now I'm seeing this. It was hard for me to separate and say, well, no, this came first.
Right.
It was weird.
Right. Like, even though you know it's wrong, your mind's going like, well, this is just a ripoff of Magnificent Seven.
Yeah, kind of that.
Yeah.
Not,
which is, I mean, again, I know you intellectually know that's not true,
right?
But the order of events in your mind is like, well, I saw that one first.
And this happened with Godfather because of all the references
but you know
this
is better, right?
Oh, yeah, of course. But like watching Godfather, same thing happened to me there, but that was mostly, we talked about, it's mostly about like famous sayings or, one-liners and stuff that came from the movie.
Allusions to it.
And we associate them with so many other things that when I hear it in the source material, I go, oh, that sounds weird. It feels like I'm something's being echoed to me that was because I was here for the wrong order. And that's how this felt to me as well. But at the end of the day, this is a bigger, gnarlier, more epic kind of thing. And the fact that it was in the 50s blows my mind. It really does feel like a movie that was so far ahead of its time in just, I don't know, tone and visuals and its ability to sort of convey this sort of epic, heroic story that, of course, it's better. It's better than those. And those other things are great because they're great homages, right?
Yeah,
but I can't.
It's not that they're bad.
Right.
Yeah.
I can still watch those and have a great time with them. And I will. I love Westerns. But it turns out part of what I love about Westerns probably came from Kurosawa and I didn't know it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
My favorite Westerns are this style of Western. So
Well,
when people
a fistful of dollars, as I mentioned, coming from Yojimbo, kicks off spaghetti westerns, right?
Right.
Like,
right.
You don't have spaghetti westerns without fistful of dollars. You don't have fistful of dollars without Yojimbo.
Right. And I love modern stuff. Like I was a huge fan in the 80s of Silverado. Silverado is basically this idea again. It's a ragtag group of people that have to come together.
Seven without Seven Samurai,
Yes.
and without Magnificent Seven, you don't. Yeah,
You don't have that, and you don't have. I don't even think you have Tombstone, even though Tombstone has its roots in a historical story, an actual story. It's still that thing. It's that kind of Western, and that's the vibe this thing had. So I feel like I've just never given proper credit to him or his kind of filmmaking because I didn't know. Who knew? I didn't know.
Shichinin no Samurai.
Yeah, it's really good though, and I would recommend it. If people haven't seen it, take the time. So I had to rent it. So did you, I guess. It's not streaming anywhere openly.
It is not, and I was surprised. I thought it might have been streaming in the Criterion Collection service, but it was only available for rental.
Yeah.
It's only $3. I think I paid $5 per mine because I got that higher quality. I think $3 was standard def maybe,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's only a couple bucks and it's worth it. And it is available for rent everywhere.
Sure.
Or purchase.
It is
iTunes, Amazon, Google, whatever.
It is tall.
Want, so.
I don't know if it's exactly 4x3, but it's a taller format, not a wider format. I think that's probably just what it was in the cinema as well. It's just how it was filmed.
Just the print that they were using.
So that's fine, but just don't let that throw you people at home if you're like, oh man, this isn't widescreen. That's just the way it was.
That's Casablanca is too, right? So
that's a good
old
point.
Movie stuff.
Yeah. But I remember when it first came up, I went, "Oh, did I get the wrong?" And then I figured it out. It's just not widescreen.
Wait, why isn't this in 4K?
I mean, even I just finished the Netflixification mini seriesification of Hateful Eight, which I really recommend. By the way, awesome.
Okay,
I like Hateful Eight anyway, but as a broken up into 6-episode arc or 4, whatever it is. Thing that has, you can watch it in a bingeable sort of way, but also he added in a bunch of stuff that was cut. It's really great in that format. I think I love it. I think it's
that in the tradition of Seven Samurai.
It so is like that's my thing. I came away from this going, oh my gosh, I just watched one of these and didn't know it again. Like I didn't know it, and it's obviously we take it in all kinds of new directions today. Certainly Tarantino does, but. You can see on the face of it now. I'm like, oh, right. He is a huge fan, a student of Kurosawa's films. I see it now in every frame.
All right. As someone who had never seen a Kurosawa picture before, how did you feel the first time you saw that vertical wipe?
Oh, my gosh. Very Star Wars-y is how I felt.
Well, that's where Lucas took it from Kurosawa. He was homaging. He was that one he's mentioned as well. He was an homage to Kurosawa to use that kind of wipe, and then of course that continued to be the wipes in the prequels. And J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson have both used those wipes. Like Kurosawa, just the wipe, still living on.
Did he invent the wipe? As best we can tell.
I don't think he invented it. No, I'm sure other people had used it before. It's a pretty standard wipe, but his usage of it was so iconic. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I mean, everyone associated with Star Wars, right? So if you see it in some other modern movie, you're like, they got that from Star Wars. Well, guess what? Star Wars got it from Seven Samurai, and every time they did it, I went, "Oh, what? This is cool. Are we going to Dagobah now? We're gonna learn how to train Luke a little more." Like it was definitely that vibe, right?
Don't forget your training.
And they were very good. Oh, that's the other thing I like. So for a movie this old, the music they decided to go a very traditional music, which makes sense because it's a period piece, but
yeah, it's period piece.
Totally fits perfectly. It's perfect for this, and it's not too much of it. There's lots of fighting that happens with like no music backing. I appreciate that when that's done right. I really like it. There's something very awkward, and again, Tarantino does this all the time. Like it's a very cool, discordant thing when there's like one of these guys getting stabbed on the edge of their little encampment, and there's no music backing. And you're just getting the raw, violent act of defending your home against these horrible invaders. And it's great. So I really liked it. I was afraid I wouldn't have much to say about it. But clearly I've had things to say.
Yeah, you've got a lot to say about it.
Yeah.
The only thing we haven't really touched on is probably one of the reasons that your Lucases and your Tarantinos are also so enamored with Kurosawa and Seven Samurai and all his movies is the filmic techniques of him are respected. As I say from time to time on these, Scott and I don't pretend to be cinema experts or anything, but I have read a lot of people who are cinema experts talk about the innovative use of not cutting. So starting on a person talking and then widening out to show the room and then zooming back in on the subject who the person is talking about, where another director would have just like taken the shot of the talking, cut to a close up of the subject, and then back to the person talking. So there's all kinds of Kurosawa apparently liked to do that a lot, where he would just move the camera to get the transition rather than make cuts,
which was a very weird thing to see in a movie that's old, and it really put me in the place of it. And there was also that technique he would use when people would walk and talk. Kind of West Wing style. So they're walking near the camp, having meaningful dialogue between 2-3 characters as they walk to somewhere else, and the camera's moving with them. And I don't think that's very common in a movie from 1950 anything. Like most of them are stationary. If you're going to have dialogue, you're all sitting in a room going, listen here, say what I mean, say, and they're just talking. And close-ups happen and all that. But this was like, here are these guys moving, and that camera's moving with them. And I don't know if they were doing it on tracks or what they were doing, but it looked really good.
Yeah.
It's really something. People should watch it. Seven Samurai, available wherever you rent your movies.
What do you think of that moment when Kanbei, the leader, shaves off his top knot, poses as a monk to rescue the boy from the kidnapper? Because that is, at least by Roger Ebert, considered to be the first example of a hero being introduced by having a mini mission that is no other way related to the rest of the movie.
Oh, that's interesting. I know, I really liked it. I assume he poisoned him, right? Do I have that right?
No. He just went in there and stabbed him with his sword.
Because I thought what he did is had the rice balls.
Yeah, he used the rice balls to get the guy to trust him.
Did he then go in and stab him?
And then he ran in and the guy ran out, and then
That's what it was, because he ran in and the guy ran, and in my head I went, oh, he ate. He
waited till the guy started eating, and then he was distracted, and then he ran.
Okay, all right. I thought he died from the ball. I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't think it was that subtle. I think it was,
because it's a movie with.
It would be dishonorable to poison.
Sure, person. And it's a movie with, violence, but there's no blood in this thing really. And so whenever somebody gets stabbed or sliced or whatever, it wasn't very graphic.
Yeah.
A lot of implied stuff, though, like when
in some ways it felt like, and I'm sure there was a code that they were following, of course, but in some ways it felt like TV violence, right? It was like the A-Team, we'll hit you with the sword and then you pretend that killed you.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. We're just sitting here and all these things are popping into my head that follow the structure. Another one, and which comes from comics, which is a whole other area that benefits from this kind of storytelling. But I just finished The Boys on Prime. Very, very different content, but it's the same idea. Get all the weirdos together to figure out a thing. Team them all up, get the old band together. Some are horrible to work with, some are easier, some are smart, some are dumb. Brute force, brains, like all that kind of stuff. One of them is usually super kind of green and innocent, doesn't know how all this works, which is a lot like, is it Shin? Whoever the love story guy, that guy. Forgot his name.
Shin is the lady.
Or who's the dude that likes her?
Yeah, Katsuhiro, I think.
Okay. Well, anyway, he's basically that in this because he's a little green. He's a little under. He wants to be awesome and heroic and everything, but he's kind of coming at it a little bit green. Like that's the story. I just watched The Boys. That's the story. Like it's just across the board. Right? Everybody does this. Like I feel like that just is a huge revelation to me, and I feel like I'm way late to the game. You guys everyone knows this, but me. That's how it feels.
It kind of fits the hero's journey, the Campbellian myth, but not. It's a much different take on it,
right?
And so it is seminal.
I should ask my sister. She would probably have some primal thing about people that we love this kind of story because we've evolved to know that our relationships are complicated, that we sort of need numbers to accomplish things. Like there's something primal there.
Yeah,
and it rings.
But we need multiple perspectives to help have better ideas to defeat predators.
And sometimes it's hard, and there's weaknesses and there's strengths, but you make it through anyway. Like there's just something there that must be just universal.
And swords.
Yes, and swords. I forgot about the swords. And horses don't hurt if you can get one.
I thought you would like this because of the sort of the mythologic nature of it. The sort of like, the old man who must be called. There's something that's just even beyond just the heist movie team action part of it. There's sort of that timeless wisdom of the samurai romanticism to it that I thought you would like. So I hadn't even considered, and I should have, that it's like, but it's also the blueprint for every movie Scott likes.
Yeah, no, that's true. It really is the blueprint. So let me ask you this. We asked this a lot on these films. Is this the kind of movie you could ever see them doing a remake of, or will they just continue to make new Magnificent Sevens because that's the safe way to do it in a runaround kind of way?
Right. Well, I mean, in a sense, they continually remake it all the time, right? I mean, we talked about Magnificent Seven. There's also the anime series Samurai 7. Somebody in the chat was talking about A Bug's Life earlier, which has a lot of similarities. Yep. Seven Swords is a wuxia film that revolves around 7 warriors helping villagers. So, I mean, it's hard to say, like, why. I don't know why you would just go remake Seven Samurai when you could just do what everyone else does and do a spin off of it. And I'm tempted to say like, oh, you just you modernize it, but people have done that, right? Yeah. Like there's nothing left to do but redo it as a period piece. And where I might be hesitant to say that because it's such a classic, at this point, I've seen so many versions of it. I'm curious if someone could pull it off to be like, no, I'm doing Seven Samurai, like set in 1583, Japan, same characters, Katsushiro, Kikucho, Kanbei, they're all there.
Yeah, it would be really dangerous, but I wouldn't mind. I'm always of the opinion that if someone wants to try and someone's willing to put up the money, that people should just try stuff.
Yeah, of course.
I don't think there's nothing sacred. But I'll bet it's daunting to the point that people just would never want to mess with it. I wonder,
at the point someday when Japanese movie stars are, and we're not that far off from this point, are so well known that you can cast 7+ stars in these roles, and European and American audiences will get excited because they know who they are. Then I think with the right director and the right cast, it might be interesting to see someone take off. I'm sure they would get resistance. There would be people crying bloody murder at the idea of remaking Kurosawa, but I don't know who it would be. Maybe it's Denis Villeneuve or somebody like that. But
his name always comes up in my head because he's earned my trust for stuff that's hard to do.
Because he seems to be able to get away with it, right? Like who make a Blade Runner sequel? Well, apparently Denis Villeneuve.
Dude, that movie shouldn't have worked, and it totally did. It did beyond my expectations, and Dune is therefore. I'm so excited about Dune.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see if he pulls that off. Then well, it's Seven Samurais next.
Yeah, I'm calling it now. Villeneuve's next project, Seven Samurai, set in space though. Yeah. It'll all be in space.
Well, no, but that I actually, I know you're joking, but that's the thing. It's like, yeah, but people have done that. That's
Yeah.
called Star Wars, right? Like, let's do just Seven Samurai beat for beat. I'm curious if somebody can make it work.
Yeah, I would like to see that too.
And not be an abomination. I think it has a high risk of being an abomination.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, it totally does. I mean, if we're talking just risks and numbers, forget about the emotional response. It's pretty high risk of being pretty bad. But the right people could do it. I would love it if a Japanese director did it. Also, by the way, The Expanse on TV is basically Seven Samurai in space.
Yeah.
I love it. I love how many
and
things
the villagers are the belters.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And if I think about it real hard, most movies that involved a
Although
team...
I think the belters would be offended if we compared them to the villagers in Seven Samurai.
They probably would.
Okay.
But you know what? Bring them to Earth and they won't be able to do anything because the gravity sucks so bad. They're just dragging themselves on the ground, asking for water. Anyway, there you go. That's your movie. It's awesome, and go get it. It's real good. It's on iTunes. It's on Prime. It's Vudu. Everywhere who has it for rent. And I think you should. This was a Criterion Collection style, like ultimate version. It's very long, 3.5 hours. That surprised me. But it's worth it. It's totally worth it. And there's not, you know what? Honestly, it's like it's an easy read as a subtitled film. There's no huge paragraphs. It's a lot of short dialogue. It's very quick and, a
lot of non-dialogue portions where you just forget you've got captions at all.
Totally. And so it's out there. It's ready for you next month.
Or just learn Japanese.
Yeah, or learn Japanese, you lazy butts. Snow White and the Seven Dwarves. Dwarfs or dwarves? How do they? It's dwarfs.
Dwarves and...
Was it?
No, I think it's dwarfs.
Okay.
Dwarfs.
I don't know.
That's how it's spelled.
Yeah, it is how
I
it's
would
spelled.
call it dwarves, but I think the actual movie is spelled dwarfs.
I think you're right.
Am
Snow
I
White,
wrong?
I think you're right that it's dwarfs. Because they don't call them dwarves, I don't think. Anyway, it's weird. Snow White, the Seven Dwarfs, the Disney film, 1937. In a way,
The first Disney film.
Yes, and the first ragtag group of people that inspired Kurosawa to make Seven. Just kidding. That's not true.
That's right. We're going from 7 to 7. I didn't even think about that.
Seven Dwarves. That's next month. That's in September. That'll be our movie for that month. Now, you may notice we kind of did back-to-backs because Tom was out of town for a couple of weeks, and it kind of changed things around. So next week will be a normal. We just wanted to kind of keep semblance of normalcy. So next week's when I say normal, it's an episode where we talk about news and latest pop culture stuff and all of that. Our regular show, for lack of a better term. And then the week after that, we'll have another autopilot. The week after that, a normal show. And then this. That's the structure, everybody. I hope that makes sense.
What's our autopilot again?
I don't remember. We had one kind of picked.
It is...
It's not that Rodney Dangerfield
Friends.
thing. Oh, Friends. That's right. That's right. That pilot. I'm excited for that because that pilot is not like the rest of the series. It's weird.
Yeah, I remember that it's a little weird if you go back.
It's very weird, and it's up there, and we should do it before. Didn't someone get the rights back, or Disney's going to have it, or something?
Oh God! No, you know what? People get so you'll be able to watch it. It's not going to be deleted from the internet. Like, don't worry, it's fine. Everything's fine.
Friends is available in perpetuity. We can guarantee it.
They're deleting Friends from the internet.
Yeah. So that'll be good because I'm not even that big of a Friends fan, but I think the weirdness of that pilot versus the rest of the show is fun conversation. So we're going to have that coming up in a couple of weeks.
That's a couple weeks from now.
Yeah, a couple weeks from now. Anyway, so we're back home and things are all normal again. Thank you all for being here. And Snow White, by the way, as of November 12th, will be on Disney Plus. Part of that.
So if you want to save next month's movie episode until November, then you can watch that.
That's all on you. Go for it. All right. Before we get out of here, Tom Merritt, is there anything else people should be checking out this week from you?
Yes, indeed, there is. The Daily Tech News Show every day, Monday through Friday, is your best way to be the smartest person about tech in the room. Not because you'll know how to program or how to, overclock a motherboard, but because you'll understand the context in which the news is given. You'll be able to have that cynical sigh about Friends being deleted from the internet and more. It'll just keep you up to date. You'll probably feel, I would like to think, you'll feel a little better about technology if you understand it better. So please check it out, dailytechnewsshow.com.
Nice. Also, I put up this thing. Some people seem to like it, and I don't really advertise it very much, but if you're somebody who loves to color but can't draw, And maybe you've gone to Barnes & Noble and bought one of those adult coloring books. And by adult, I don't mean, lascivious adult. I mean, like, for people who are older, not kids. And you color them. It's very soothing, relaxing, fun, whatever. And you're good at coloring, but you're not good at drawing. Well, I've drawn a couple of things and put them up on the store that are now in a format that you can go download for super cheap, $2.99. You download the file. It's a great big transparent PNG that you can either put digitally on a tablet or something and draw on that. You've got an iPad, a Wacom, something like that, Wacom. Or if you want to just print it and color it, think of it as your own personal coloring page. It's a great way to support me, but it's also a cool way to get your color on if you can't actually draw. And World of Warcraft fans might be most excited because the thing that I just put up there is a angry-looking goblin from World of Warcraft, but set in kind of a blasted-out Mad Max kind of universe. So go check it out. It's available now, frogpants.com/store. That's going to do it for the show. Thank you all for being here. We'll be back next week, of course, CurrentGeek.com. Until then, you'll find everything you need there, including our Patreon. Go to patreon.com/CurrentGeek to support us. We love it. We need it. And we love you for helping us with it. If you haven't before, consider it now. That's patreon.com/CurrentGeek. That's going to do it for us, for me, for Tom, for all of you. We'll see you next time. Whoops, wrong button.
Boop 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 boop.
Boo.